find a copy of the New Path, and I could dig it up on my computer, but I did find this, which is called The Path, and this is the original version of the book. It's not the first edition of The Path. It started in 1977 and had many editions. In fact, this is the edition that was available when I bought the book myself in 1996. And so anyway, I happened to find it here, and so I thought it would be fun to read from this. I can hear Swamiji saying, I rewrote it. Why are you reading from the old version? But I hope he'll forgive me. What we have is that on Tuesday is Guru Purnima, and we will be having a celebration at the center, and it'll be 7:30 to 8:30 in the evening. We'll have a flower ceremony. We'll have a video of Swamiji, and so please do come forward if you can. It's a very auspicious day, of course, and also it is it really is the anniversary of the Alwarpet Center. Those of you who were there that day remember we dedicated the Alwarpet Center on Guru Purnima, which that year was July 21st. And in fact, I was a little concerned because, as often is the case, you plan when to open a center or when to have a dedication, and then you realize, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be interesting to know the astrology of that date? And so I wrote to Drupada, of course is the way to say his name. We've got a lot of Americanizations of names here. And so Drupada, I wrote to him and said, you know, I should have asked you before we planned and announced this opening of the center, but can you let me know if it's really horrible astrology? It's Guru Purnima and so on. And he just wrote back, Guru Purnima works for me. And I think that's something to remember too, especially if you've been going through a difficult time lately or a dry period or whatever. Just remember, on Guru Purnima, there's a special opening and a special pause in the torture. And you can have all kinds of joy, freedom, happiness. The Guru kind of lets us all out. So even if it doesn't seem like that outwardly, remember he's very close with you inwardly on that day. And of course, every day. But that day, it's easier to convince ourselves. So it also is the day, Guru Purnima, that we tried to dedicate this center, the one you're in. We had a fire ceremony on Guru Purnima outside the front lawn, even though the building was still occupied and still running as a hospital. And we were, you know, saying we want to, you know, the doctor had announced her intention of moving out, and so we weren't really forcing her out. We were using self-control not to sort of kind of, you know, swaha, 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 you know, just kind of, you know, please, poita without vanga, just go. And so we were using ahimsa and not trying to force it, but we definitely had that fire ceremony. Many more of you were there who are there. It's fun to think of these times. So anyway, Guru Purnima has always been a big day for us at Ananda Chennai. So this is about the Guru. Swamiji writes, "Blessed are the pure in heart, said Jesus, for they shall see God." The teachings of the Galilean master and those of India's great yogis were cut from the same cloth of self-realization. Only when the likes and dislikes of the heart and their resultant vortices of desire and aversion have been purified can self-realization be attained. The vortex of ego itself is then dissipated with relative ease, for without objective attachments, it soon loses its momentum and is dispersed at last by the currents of divine inspiration. Most efforts to transform oneself involve a laborious struggle to correct an endless array of individual faults, a tendency to gossip, over-attachment to sweets, physical laziness, and the like. The devotee must, of course, fight such battles as they present themselves to his mind. But to attempt to win the whole war in this piecemeal fashion would be like trying to realign each molecule in a bar of steel separately. Purely psychological efforts at self-transformation are a never-ending task. Even after one has succeeded, finally, in turning a few mental molecules in the right direction, there is no guarantee they'll remain turned that way once one leaves them to work on the next lot. The way to magnetize a bar of steel is to introduce a south-north current into it by placing it in close proximity to a magnetized bar. The way to become spiritually magnetized, similarly, is to place oneself in spiritual proximity to one's guru. That is to say, to attune oneself to him mentally. Because the energy of an awakened master flows naturally upwards toward the spiritual eye, attunement with him generates a similar flow in the disciple. But of course, more is involved here than passive acceptance of the guru's blessings. Any disciple, indeed, who relies on those blessings alone will make only negligible progress. For man is not inert metal. He can and must cooperate in the process of self-transformation. As Yogananda put it, the path is 25% the disciple's own effort, 25% the guru's effort on his behalf, and 50% the grace of God. The guru needs the disciples' cooperation. The guru needs the disciples' cooperation, and the disciple can cooperate best when he understands how this magnetic influence actually works in his body, raising subtle currents of energy through the spine to the brain. Cooperation with the guru's efforts and with divine grace means doing what one can himself to direct energy upwards through the spine. This is a theme, really, of I was thinking about what to say about the guru. And, the first thing that occurred to me when I thought of the guru, and I was thinking of Master and of Swamiji, was love. How much I love them. Not enough, but still how much it is for me that I love them and that I feel joy just listening to Swamiji's voice or Master's voice. So refreshing. We had at one point we were driving to Lake Tahoe on this pilgrimage on Monday, this past Monday. And we were listening to chants and chanting along, and then we put on a talk by Master. And it was so nice to hear his voice, to hear his jokes, the different things he was saying. It really lifted the energy of everyone in the van, so they said. But then I wondered why, just to say, oh yes, the guru, we love the guru. Oh, do we feel such joy at the sight of the guru and hearing his voice and so on. But why? And of course, it's been a very interesting thing for me to contemplate that a thought that Sri Yukteswar said to Master. He said, the only way that you can get people to love you is if you are useful to them. And it's interesting because it wasn't as if Master was asking, how can I get people to love me? Of course, a devotee is interested more in how can I love God more? And it's true, Master said, you can't win the love of God until you've won the love of man. Or rather, don't think that you can win the love of God if you don't also win the love of man. It isn't that we win the love of others in order to please God. But on the other hand, as we love God more, people should be and will be, especially other devotees, more attracted to us. It was interesting to me too, because there was a man practicing yoga who was, he was a student at the center, but his father came to me and said, my son comes here, but he is not behaving very nicely at home. And it was interesting because it wasn't like another example, which I've told you all, of someone who came to Haridasji in Bangalore and said, I meditate and so on. And then Haridas asked him at one point, do the people in your office know that you meditate? And the man said, oh no, I don't tell them that I meditate. And Haridas Ji said, why? Are you shy, or are you embarrassed, or are you just the sacred thing? He said, no, if they knew I meditated, they would expect me to behave better. And so in this wasn't the case though. With this man, I did feel from what the father was telling me that the son really wasn't behaving as well as he should. And that is where I'll leave the story. But the father said, when you meditate, it should make you more and I thought he was going to say more loving, which in fact I think is true. But he said, if you meditate, it should make you more lovable. And it was very sweet, because I'd never really thought of that. And it's true that as you become more calm, as you become more kind, as the voice softens naturally, people should be drawn to you. You find it at first that strangers come up to you more often than they used to, asking for help, oh, there's Radhika, there you are. Sorry, you were hiding in the corner by the date and time on this computer. Now I see you. Strangers will ask you questions. They'll ask you for directions and different things. And people will just respond to you differently. As a man who came to the center and he said, at my job, I sit at a desk. And when people come, they are always like this. And I too am like this. He said, but now since I have meditated, I find that when they come to my desk, they are different. And I am also different. You just can't help it. You find yourself naturally having more of an open heart, more softness, more kindness, partly because in meditation, we feel that softness and kindness naturally coming within us, coming up from within. And then when it goes away, we miss it. When we get irritated, when we get afraid, when we get hot, then we find I'm pinched now. Before, the heart was always pinched. So what is the difference? Whether it's more pinched, less pinched, maximum pinched, it's always pinched. As it becomes unpinched, then we say, and then when the pinch comes back, we say, Vendam, I don't like this. And I have something to compare it to now. And so we work to hold on to that peace, even to jealously guard it. And so, because we like how it feels. So similarly, I had to admit that probably one reason I love the Guru, if not the only reason, if I want to put it rather as Sri Yukteswar did in rather cold terms, is that he has been exceedingly useful to me. And I think that that's not a bad basis. I do feel that the Guru not only has helped me, Swamiji and Master have not only helped me and have been useful to me in that way, but they've also brought me much joy. And when something brings you joy, you end up loving that thing. Why do people, this Swamiji mentioned eating too many sweets. So why do people eat too many sweets? Because they taste awful? No. Because they taste good. Because they enjoy them. Because they bring pleasure. And also, in some cases, they distract us from pain. And so we have some more. And so that positive experience we seek more and more of, and we can sometimes just say the name, Mysore Pak. And it brings peace and joy to the heart, not so much to the sugar levels and other things, but it just, because it has brought me joy, I just love it. And so this is how it is. You find every now and then someone who doesn't like Mysore Pak. I don't know how it's possible, but I've heard there are such people. And it's just that way that it has brought us joy. But what is the joy and what is the use? I was thinking about the 50th anniversary of Ananda and everyone's experience here who came on the pilgrimage. And Ashwini, did we lose her? Oh yeah, don't be off screen because it'll make me worry. If someone's off screen, they're going to be going all the time and you all will laugh and I won't get it. No, I'm kidding. Sorry? Agnel. Come on. I need more than a hand. Why don't you sit in the middle? Listen, this is the only day of the week that I get to see you all. Okay. So I was thinking about the disciples who came on the pilgrimage there, and we spent a lot of time together, and they were sharing their own journeys at Ananda and so on, and we were having a big experience together. That's more, the anniversary is more or less the theme for the satsangs this year. In other words, Anandiji satsang next week with you all, and then Jyotishji and Deviji, and of course the speakers before. And I was thinking about how, I really did come to the spiritual path, as Swamiji said, trying to correct myself through self-effort alone, trying to analyze my faults, trying to fix them. Why is a good question. Why bother? It wasn't very easy, and it didn't bring a lot of happiness. And so you might have asked, why did I bother trying in the first place? What attracted me to? It certainly wasn't anything that I was taught. I never learned, and no one ever said anything about perfection or growth or so on. It was just an innate drive for me. It was just something that I felt I had to do. I wanted to do. I wanted to learn. I wanted to grow. I felt that I had to know what was true in life, and not only to know it, but to somehow have knowledge of truth that was useful, something that I could do. Have a knowledge of truth that I could do something about. Master writes that in the Autobiography of a Yogi, that it is not enough for man to be fed and to be clothed. Beyond these physical needs, he says, wisdom too is a native hunger. That just from birth we hunger for wisdom, for understanding, and so on. Swamiji put it another way. He said that everyone is seeking bliss. They may seek it in the form of emotional joy. They may seek it in the form of physical pleasure. But they're seeking happiness, which ultimately leads to bliss. Everybody wants that. No matter what they're doing it because they think it will make them happy. So this drive for self-transformation, for growth, for learning, I did very much, care about. I wanted to be a better person. I wanted to be happier. I wanted to grow in understanding. I didn't know how to do it, and I also didn't know that it was something you could really do as a career. That there was anybody who focused on self-improvement, on growth. It just seemed like a side effect. When I was in college, I realized I only learned lessons if life happened to give me an experience that was big enough to get my attention, and I happened to draw a good conclusion from it. There were a lot of experiences I had that just walloped me on the side of the head, and I just kept, what did you do that for? Why does that keep happening? I'm perfectly innocent and sweet, and these terrible things keep happening to me. And perhaps to some extent it was right, but to a large extent it was wrong. The point was, what could I do? The master had a disciple, Bernard, who kept getting into accidents. And let's see, what was one? In one accident, a car ran through a stoplight and hit his car. And Master said to him, you must be more careful. And Bernard said, Master, the car hit me, and I wasn't doing anything wrong. Master said, you must be more careful. And so then the next time, Bernard drove his car, parked it, got out, went to a store, and he heard a crash, and a car had hit his car, and it was parked. And Master said, you must be more careful, when he heard. And he said, Master, I wasn't even in the car. Master said, nevertheless, you must be more careful. So Bernard thought, I don't agree with what he's saying, and I don't see how it was my fault. And yet, I do have a certain carelessness in my attitude. So let me try to be more careful, as he said. And so he did. And in fact, he stopped getting into accidents. It was something he was attracting. That's something that was in his aura. It was part of his magnetism. And it didn't matter if it was logically his fault in appearance, but it was definitely something that, again, he was attracting. And then he corrected in himself. And then it stopped happening. Speaking of a car being hit while parked, when Dharmini and I were living in Los Angeles, one of the Acharyas, Ram, for those of you who met Ram, well, Ashwini, you met Ram, and the others met Ram while they were here, he came to give the Sunday satsang. And he and his wife parked the car and got out of the car. And then we're walking up the sidewalk. Our ashram was on a very busy city street in Los Angeles, in West Hollywood. And I didn't know this. I was just in the temple. And suddenly I heard this huge crash. And so I ran outside and I saw that they were fine, but their car was just smashed. And a car had come around the corner and was just going way too fast and drifted. Their car was parked correctly, but still, he banged into their car and actually pulled the back wheel off of his car, but kept driving anyway, hoping that he could somehow get away. And then it just ground to a halt. And anyway, it was bad news all around. It was a sad story, actually, but no one was hurt. But I thought, you know, Divine Mother, this isn't fair. I mean, their car got hit. Thank you for saving their lives. And listen, we don't prefer the alternative, so, you know, we don't mean to be ungrateful, but gee, I mean, their car got hit. They're doing your work. They're going to give a satsang. Why should you smash their car? And so he, you know, Ram wasn't saying this. And I just said, it's not fair. And, you know, you're going to have to show me why this is in any way has a happy ending. I was thinking of how Master said, just that thing we don't want, it happens to us. But then, as he and Swamiji pointed out, often that terrible, dreaded thing turns out to be the best thing that could have ever happened to us. So I said to her, how can crashing his car be a good thing? I mean, you could say he was destined to die and I saved his life. And if that's the case, fine. But we have no way of knowing that. And in any case, so if that's it, fine. But it seemed a little bit like a cop-out to me. So anyway, he brought his car to the shop. It had to be towed to the repair shop. Meanwhile, his insurance gave him a rental car that he could use during the time. So he could still go to work and his job and his wife could go to work. So they were okay. And his car was getting fixed. And the insurance was really clear, you know, that yes, you had this damage and so on. And, you know, but what did this damage here on the other side of the car had to be pre-existing because, you know, there's no way it could have come from the other car hitting you on this side. It couldn't damage the left side. So, you know, we're not going to fix that. That's not covered and so on. And anyway, his car got fixed a week later and he got a phone call from the shop saying, you know, come pick it up. And at the end of work, he got another call saying, we're so sorry to tell you, your car isn't ready. It got hit by another car in the shop. And so they said, we're so sorry. We're going to repair the damage, of course, that was caused by this fender bender in the shop. And we're going to repair all the other damage to your car on all sides, because that was pre-existing, just because we feel so badly. So he got a completely repaired car for free out of the deal. So I thought it was sweet of Divine Mother. She wanted to fix his car. She had a funny way of doing it by breaking it more first, but then she fixed his car. So, you know, how is that related to anything? Bernard must be more careful, and you've got these things in your aura. Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but essentially I was trying to improve myself. And then I discovered the spiritual path. I discovered Autobiography of a Yogi, and I realized that it wasn't just that we had to learn these things by accident. Maybe we've encountered a friend who told us some wise thing. Maybe we read a spiritual book and it gave us an insight. But I found in Master's book a systematic way for growth, not necessarily from his book alone, because of course there's the Hong Sa technique, which isn't in the book, the Om technique, the energization exercises, and so on. Of course, those are all his teachings. So those lessons too. But I also found beyond the wisdom of his book and his vibrations of the book, because the book changed my whole life. I mean, here I am sitting here because of that book. And I only have met all of you because of that book. And so, but also, when I read Swamiji's book, I felt like I should get to know him. He's a direct disciple of Master, and Olavananda was started by him, and so I liked his music, and he was living in Italy, I was living in America, and so I read The Path. Again, I read this exact book, not this literal, but this copy of the same book, and I listened to his voice. It is the essence of self-realization. He was giving classes. I mean, it was a recording of classes he had given a few years earlier on that book when he had published it. And I watched a few videos of his, and they were nice. I liked them all. I found that they were full of wisdom. They took me deeper, but I didn't, what could I say? I was developing an intellectual appreciation of him. And there were things that he said, I thought, I don't know if I agree with that. And so on. I later realized I didn't agree with it because I was wrong. But at the time, I didn't realize that. And then it was an intellectual thing for me that Swami Kriyananda, yes, excellent. I should, on the one hand, part of me was saying I want to like him. And on the other hand, a part of me was saying, well, we'll see. We'll see. Yogananda's book, fantastic. Swamiji, I'm sure he's very wise, yes. But I was approaching it all as an intellectual. As Swamiji said in the beginning with Master, he was viewing Master as a very wise man. And I don't know whether I can fully believe that, because I believe Swamiji must have always known. But in any case, that's what he says. And thinking of Master as a wise man, Master approached him one day and looked him in the eye and said, if you knew my consciousness. Because he was much more than a wise man. And which, of course, Swamiji came to appreciate and even merge and grow in that same wisdom and in that same freedom and realization. But I was doing more or less the same thing. I was viewing Swami Kriyananda as a wise man. And it all changed the day that I met him. And I say this somewhat hesitantly because I know that you can't meet him physically, but many of you have met him online. Many of you have felt helped by his words, or some of you have had dreams of him. And so I know that many people have had that transformation in their connection with Swamiji without meeting him physically. And so it's very much possible and continues to happen. For me, it happened when I met him physically. I had never been in the presence of such energy, such joy. It wasn't an intellectual thing at all. I've told this story so much recently, I'm not going to go through and tell the whole story again. But it was essentially when he entered the room, it felt like an explosion. I didn't hear it, but I felt it. I was shaken. And he was from behind me. So it's not that I saw him and kind of went, oh, it wasn't like I was overwhelmed like a fan or by a celebrity. I just felt hit by this wave of energy that was so thrilling to me. I just can't describe it. It was, like I said, it wasn't just excitement because I couldn't see him. And it continued. It then got overlaid with other emotions like, okay, I see him now that he's in front, but does he see me? Because I'd like to meet him and trying to get his attention, which I completely failed to do. It seemed he said, let's meditate. Meditate? Oh no. Okay. All right. And then I thought, here I am meditating in Swami Kriyananda's presence, and yet all I'm doing is going, because I was so frustrated, I wanted to meet him. And I didn't quite go up to him and say, would you like another glass of water? And by the way, nice to meet you. But Then I thought, here I'm wasting this opportunity. I'm getting to meditate with Swamiji, and here I am just feeling, full of desire. And then I realized, how can I get out of this? I wanted to get out of it, and I realized I was trying to get something more from him. Say hi to me, give me your attention, please. And he didn't. And I thought, think of all that he's already given me. The books that he's written, the music that he's written, all the acharyas who he trained at Ananda over all these years, who then were helping me directly by being in their classes, because I had met many of them already. And Ananda itself, just the meditation techniques passed on from Yoganandaji, Kriya, all these things I had, received already, as a direct result from him without ever having met him. So I thought, let me just think of gratitude. Let me be grateful to him rather than trying to take more. And as soon as I did that, I felt this cool wave descend from head to toe. I've never had an experience like that, except when I sit under the AC. No, I'm joking. It's actually quite cold in here. I turned the AC down too much. Oh well, I'm sitting here suffering alone in the cold AC, and none of you have to suffer. Just wait till I get back. But anyway, so I just felt this coolness descend, and I became very calm. And then I could enjoy meditating with him and so on. So anyway, the story goes on. But I realized that because I was trying to think back of when did it shift for me? When did it click? When did I suddenly realize or begin to realize what a treasure I had and we all have in Swamiji? And it was the first time I was in his presence. And it's related to what he wrote in this book, that magnetizing power definitely affected me. Not even necessarily because I was expecting it, wanting it. I mean, on some deep level I wanted it, but I wasn't consciously thinking, there he is, I want to get some magnetism. As Master said to the monks when they were carrying his body up the stairs, because he couldn't use his legs for a time in his life, and he was taking on the karma of the disciples, and it was affecting his knees. And anyway, he said, because they had to physically carry him and touch him, which normally you wouldn't do with the guru. You wouldn't touch him except his feet. And even then, sort of, you wouldn't just run up to him and touch his feet. And so he said, thank you all for helping me. But he then also said, you're stealing lots of magnetism. And he said, that's good. And so in the same way, I wasn't looking to Swamiji saying, fill me with your magnetism, or, oh, now that I see you, I will have the blessing of your darshan and it will change me. All of these things are actually true, but I wasn't smart enough to figure any of that out. It was just the feeling that I had. And Swamiji too talks about when he was in the presence of Master, and Master said, let us all meditate together. Direct your attention to the spiritual eye. And Swamiji said he felt his whole consciousness and energy rising up his spine, fixed here. He said never by his unaided efforts could he accomplish this so quickly before. And he realized why the scriptures praise the value of a guru in terms of how much easier it makes everything. Not just because of teaching, and not just because of the others who he has trained, who then can help us, because of course one person can only give energy to so many people. And so if he has others who are around him to help other people, that increases the effect or the sphere of help. But these things are important, but most important is his spiritual power. And that is something that you can feel at any time and in any way. Swamiji even said in his lifetime to somebody who was always, I think, I can't say for sure, but basically the question he asked Swamiji implied that the man felt a little bit on the outside. That you, Swamiji, you have the people who you keep close to you, but you don't keep me close to you, and therefore maybe you like them better, or I'm not as worthy, or you think I'm not, and so on. And Swamiji said to him, attunement has nothing to do with proximity. This proximity, again, the word Swamiji used, with closeness. Just because people are close to me doesn't mean they're more attuned. Just because people are farther away from me doesn't mean they're less attuned. And he had said on other occasions, some of those people at Ananda to whom I feel the closest, I almost never see because they're serving elsewhere or their paths aren't crossing. And so that's an important thing to remember too. You might think that, well, if only we were with Master, it would be so easy because he would tell us everything and we would know that we were loved by him. And Swamiji said, you know, actually, even after coming to him, the disciples would wonder, does he love me? Am I really his disciple? The same kinds of questions people had with Swamiji, the same kinds of questions people have now. And having Master in the body with them, which I thought would have just erased all doubt, apparently it didn't, Swamiji said. Meaning it's just something in us. It's something that some devotees go through. You may not go through. I remember a woman in Bangalore, a dear soul named Rosa. She said, I will always be tugging at Guruji's hair, trying to get his attention, trying to tell him, you don't forget me. I need your help. And it was so sweet the way she said, tugging at his hair. She left the body a few years ago, but she was instrumental in helping to get the Bangalore Center started. She said, we must have a center. And as much as all of us were saying, yeah, that's going to take a lot of work. Doesn't matter, we must have a center. And she rallied everybody, and eventually the first center started, and then the next center, and the next one, and so on. So anyway, I would just say that if ever you're feeling far from the Guru, or feeling your heart dry, or feeling whatever, and want to come closer to the Guru, just the simplest thing to begin with is gratitude. Just think about how your life has changed since you've begun meditating, since you've taken Kriya initiation, since you read Autobiography of a Yogi, anything, how your life has changed. Think about things you've learned, not just about the teachings, but about yourself, about others. Think about how, for me, one other great thing that this path has given me is meaning and purpose. Before then, I didn't really understand what was the point of life. You know, I saw what everybody was doing around me, and it's fine, but it didn't seem to be lasting. It all ends in death anyway. Well, but you have children, but then it ends in death for them. And after all, my parents had children, me and my brother, and still, so what? You know, I mean, I'm not knocking it, but it's not a purpose, an end in itself that appealed to me as a grand scheme. There must be more, I thought. Didn't know what. And so now I have a purpose. And of course it is to get out of all of this and to be in joy forever, but also to help others. I have to say that that was always something close to my heart. And I always wanted to share with others all the joys and insights or anything that I discovered. I was happy to hear from them too. I found it all came to an abrupt halt when I discovered Autobiography of a Yogi. Up until then, people were thrilled with anything I might recommend to them. But as soon as it became spirituality, religion, no thanks. And I was saying, but you don't understand. This is what we've been seeking. Who's been seeking? I haven't been seeking. I mean, to me, this was the truth in life. And we were always eager to talk about truth. And anyway, I learned that many of them were eager to talk about it, but not necessarily to act on it. And I was just desperate, I suppose, that I felt I had to, because otherwise life just wasn't fun enough. So, to end my little ramble here, I wanted to know if you had any questions related to the Guru or Guru Purnima or Master or Swamiji or anything on this topic. It would be nice if we could have a further discussion on things related to this topic as it is Guru Purnima soon. I'm sorry, if I'd thought about it when I was talking, I would have had a little display on the screen. Questions in 5. So you could get ready. Who has a Kelvy? I promise you I will win the staring contest. I have to say it's so nice to see you and to see all of you, each one. It's really a joy. And I'm marveling at this technology that can connect us like this. Okay, it's one of those things that if nobody admits that to the crime, then I'm going to just start picking people and accusing them in a different way. I'm going to start calling on you and say, what's your question?
There's no questions, Jay. It's just a
There are questions. Okay, Naseem. Naseem broke the seal. She actually uttered some words. So, Vijay.
How do we practice happily? Because when we start to practice, there is some hindrance, or there is the lack of energy. Is it proportionate to the love for a group?
How do we practice happiness, were you saying?
Happily.
Happily.
How do we do our sadhana?
Okay, so in other words, we can do our sadhana happily, or we can do it in another way. And sometimes we feel tired, sometimes we feel less motivated. And is that possibly because of less love for the guru and so on? Is that, huh?
And should it be done the same way like you do your work without expecting any result? Should we practice without expecting any result, just for the love of practice?
It's a really, go ahead.
Or for love of God. So
Yeah.
For God shows grace, or how do you do
It's a very good question. And it's central because there are so many, there are different ways to approach it. One is to look at the, sometimes we would explain this even in school, in the school here, in terms of a Shudra mentality, a Vaishya mentality, a Kshatriya mentality, and a Brahmin mentality. And rather than thinking of a person who is, it falls into one of these categories, rather looking at all of these as being parts of our own personality. There are certain things that, for example, we might do because it helps others. And so we're not looking for any result. And you could say that would be a Kshatriya attitude in ourselves. Whereas other things we might only do, like physical exercise in my case, because it's like, do this or you will die. Okay, I'll do it. You know, that's the only motivator to, you know, get me to do certain things, because of threat of pain. That's what motivates a Shudra. And so rather than looking again and looking at what parts of my life do I act like a Shudra? Do I act like a Vaishya? For example, with helping others around the home. We can do it for a while and then say, I helped this much, now you should also help. And that's where we reveal that though we have been acting like a Kshatriya, there's a part of us that's still Vaishya, saying, after all that I have done, you could at least do this. There should be some exchange. And it's not wrong. I'm not saying at all that it's wrong. I had a whole insight into that recently, but anyway, I can't go into that too much. But that still, that is an attitude. If I have given, so I should receive. That's a Vaishya attitude. I could say, you know, peasant, merchant, warrior, you know, priest, whatever, but it's the Sanskrit words are a little easier. So sometimes and ideally, we do our sadhana, it's true. And well, let me put it differently. I think in the beginning, most of us do sadhana because of the Vaishya in us says, if I do this, I'll get something from it. That makes sense. I meditate. Why? I feel calmer afterwards. It's easier to concentrate my mind. I feel happier. I get this benefit. And so therefore I do it. And listen, for whatever reason you do sadhana, do it. So it doesn't really matter the reason, as long as the reason works. If it talks you into it, because you will grow. Obviously, as Swamiji said, if you can be open to the guru, you'll grow that much faster. But we have to find a way to get ourselves to move forward, especially when dealing with, as Vijay was saying, indolence or laziness and so on. And remember, usually we are not, as a critic, we are a little too harsh on ourselves. On the other hand, you want to get your energy moving, so you have to balance it. So sometimes we will do it more from a Kshatriya point of view, that it is my duty to do this sadhana. It is my duty for my guru. It is, I guess you could say it's out of love for my guru. It's cooperating with the blessings that he is giving. I also hope that as I meditate, it will make me a better employee, a better husband, a better wife, a better parent. And so for other people's sake, I should meditate so that I can be calm. Also so I can pray for them and bless them, but not necessarily thinking of the direct gains to us, but really of the gains that others will benefit from, and also from a sense of dharma. That's more of a Kshatriya way. And that's very good too, if it works. You know, the thing is that the Brahmin attitude is ultimately, which is what we do our sadhana for, is again, as Vijay said, out of love for God. To please God. I want to spend this time with you. You know how when we get very busy in life, it's not as easy to spend time with our children in a quality way. It's not as easy as to spend time with our spouse in quality time. It's just sort of, how you doing? Great. How you doing? Great. All right. Next fire. I'll put this fire out. You put that fire out. Oh, you are the fire. Okay. So there's just all of these things to attend to. And it's kind of like, how did this all happen? You know, when did we just get to sit? So we go on vacation and try to hope for a time where we have a break in the routine and we can have more quality time. Your sadhana is quality time with God, is quality time with the guru. And so not just I'm doing the work, I'm cleaning out those vrittis, I'm following the discipline, I'm holding up my end of the contract, but I'm just spending time with you. I love you. I love being with you. And this is how I feel the closest to you. Even if you don't feel close to God in sadhana, you will, during your sadhana, you will definitely feel close over time, maybe at another time in the day. Or somebody will say something to you, saying just those words that you said yesterday, they got me thinking and they changed my whole life. And you think, I don't even remember what I said, but God showed you in that way. God was able to help that person through you. And so that's very rewarding. So sadhana brings you closer to God. And so out of love for God and wanting to be closer, so you do the sadhana for that purpose. Ultimately, we really should do things, Swamiji said, to please God. And that took me a long time to relate to. I didn't really know if I did things to please God. I sort of did them because I should do them, or they were good things, or Master had said to do them, so I better do them. But it was more from the sense of following the rules, which I knew were for my benefit, than to please Him. And but I realized in time that it was much more fun to think in terms of pleasing Him. Because it was easy to think of pleasing other people, give them this thing, hope that they'll like it. So give God your sadhana and hope that He'll like it. But if all of that fails, then you just have to go to the Shudra level. And all you have to do is look out the window at a small child and said, that's what I'm heading for all over again if I don't do my sadhana. Not that there's anything wrong with the child, but the child has yet to take the 12 standard exams. And so you're going to have to take them again. So you better start studying now. Or do you, Prasanna's in the front going, no, not again. And so you better start studying now or start doing more kriyas. 12 standard, forget it, do 12 kriyas. Get rid of it. Then even if you come back as a free soul and you'll take the 12 standard exams, but you'll be a free soul. You saw how Master passed all of his exams. And so all the fun techniques he used, Swamiji with his Greek exam and so on, his music exam. You know the story of his Greek examination, I think, right? How he studied and he had the consciousness you're Greek. I don't know if you all know his music. He had a musical composition exam also. And right on the day before the exam, he was sitting on the steps of the college building, looking at all the bold-faced words and statements in the book, trying to think of how is he going to pass this exam. he just wasn't interested in college. He found it was not helping him learn what he wanted. And so, anyway, he got into the exam, and all of the questions on musical theory, he either guessed or did whatever he could from what he had crammed in. But then the second half of the exam was write a melody for a fingered bass. You know, in classical music, they have the violin, and then they have the cello, but then they have the huge upright bass, which is like a massive cello. It's taller than the person playing it. And so Swamiji said, as soon as he read the question, a beautiful oriental melody, as he put it, just appeared in his mind, and he wrote it down in musical notation. And the professor later told him, you know, I had to pass you on the exam, largely because of how beautiful the melody is that you wrote. So he still passed. Again, I'm not necessarily recommending this technique, but the point is that better to skip all of these exams and get free, you know, in this lifetime. So sometimes we just have to do it. Or I have noticed that sometimes when I'm stressed and I'm more tense, I don't like it. I don't like how I feel. I don't like how I behave. And so, and especially if I end up causing trouble that could have been avoided if I had just bit my tongue and held it in, but I couldn't, that I then think, you know, I need to meditate just to calm down, just to not cause more trouble. So it's sort of, if I don't meditate, I'm going to get in more trouble. It's essentially a Shudra attitude, meditate or else. And if it works, but the problem is you don't want to be feeling guilty all the time. So, you know, if you're not able to meditate an hour and a half today, meditate for a minute and a half. You know, do something, a little thing, just to get it in there. And you'll find that will build and you'll get back on track. But definitely do not think, if I'm not meditating, it's because I don't love the Guru enough. You know, we can be so harsh on ourselves. And, you know, the Guru, he knows when we'll be liberated. He has his eye on us. And he has more fun when we are close to him. But don't go in that direction. Okay? Is that relevant at all? Okay. Any other questions? It doesn't have to be strictly on this topic. And I don't know why, Radhika, but I feel like you have a question again, because you have this little smile in the corner. Do you have a question, or were you just smiling? No question. Okay. Okay. Ashwini, do you want to share a little bit about, you know, some of the things you found inspiring about this trip?
Shall I share from here?
Yeah, why don't you come closer and then, but face them so that I can hear you, but then they can see you. Yeah, you can sit. I can hear you.
So we left Chennai on June 28th, and we reached there on 28th again. That's how it is. And we were picked up from the airport by Dharmarajan and Dharmarajan, and they came in two vans, like big vans. So there were 10 of us from Chennai, and we drove from San Francisco to another village that was around 4 hours. So we reached there, and we were taken to this place called Karuna Sagara, which is a beautiful cabin built by Nakula. And there was Nakula's wife, Nishina, was there to receive us. And the thing was, you know, they had written beautiful little notes for each one of us. So there were very sweet notes written for each one of us with our name. So all 10 of us received a sweet welcoming note. And this cabin was really fantastic. It was a wooden cabin. It was not like something that you see here, you know, it was and there were places for the men and the women. There was a huge living room and a kitchen, and the living room had a huge statue of Babaji and the pictures of our And after going from 40 degrees here in Chennai, we were there, we were all like very cold by Chennai standards. I think it would have been around 15 degrees or 16 degrees. And but the thing was, as soon as we reached there, we got the feeling of the community. Like we hear so many things about community living, like Ananda communities, but when you have to be there to experience that feeling of being in a community, because apparently, like since the temperatures were falling, there was an announcement made that these Chennai people are coming and they need a lot of warm blankets. So the whole community had donated blankets for us. So there were so many blankets, and there were bags and bags of blankets, so we could be warm. And every time we met somebody there, they'll ask, "Are you warm enough? Like, do you need more blankets?" So you really felt that feeling of being loved and being cared for, which you do not find in a place like Chennai, right? So that was the thing. And then the next day, Dharmarajan ji took us on a tour to some of the places. Like we got to the Chennai people got to go to Crystal Hermitage. Only us, the 10 of us, and we went to the Crystal Hermitage has one floor which is where Swamiji used to meet everybody, which is more public, and then his private house, which is on the side underneath. And so we could see both the places where Swamiji used to meditate. That was a beautiful place. They have covered it with glass, but we could meditate on the other side. And that had pictures of the masters as well as Yoganandaji's mother's photos also there in that room. And I think you have seen the photos, so probably you can relate. I think the puja room photos were shared. And it was so beautiful. All the books he used to read, the P.G. Woodhouse books, and as Dharmarajanji was saying, the path, the first version of the path, and then all the other things. And beautiful paintings by I think something called Odi or something.
Odierna.
Yeah. So Swamiji had seen that person's paintings, and the whole house had these beautiful paintings and so beautifully kept. And the bathroom, the kitchen, the bathroom is also huge, Swamiji. So we could really, we were like children on a trip like that, was seeing all those things. And there were his bedroom, and there was a crystal there, and there was a story behind the crystal, and there was a story behind. There's a piano. I think the piano was from Swamiji's home, his mother's piano, and things like that. There was an interesting story about the crystal also, how somebody just stole the crystal and went away. And then after some years, he just brought it, that person who stole it brought it back. And how the crystal had become clouded and gray, because it had, and then over the years, the crystal then cleared up. So a lot of interesting stories like that, about how the vibration of the place actually cleared that crystal. And then of course, like the 10 days, I don't know, the days just flew by, because there was a recurring schedule where 6:30 we have sadhana, 6:30 to 8. The sadhana was in two places, in the Temple of Light, which is the new temple, which is so beautiful. It has a dome which is covered with, which is navy blue. You would have seen the photos in the Kapula. I think it's similar to the one in Assisi as well as Seattle. And we were shown, and all the people there who made it happen, like we met Panduranga, the architect, and it has a lot of other nice things, like you can change the lighting inside, so it can turn blue or different other colors, so beautiful. And apparently this Temple of Light was supposed to happen in 2003, so it was delayed by nearly 16 years. And one reason why it was delayed apparently is because Swamiji started his work in India. So in a way, everything got diverted to India from 2003 onwards, and that's one reason why the Temple of Light was delayed. So in a way, we Indians should be obligated. I mean, we feel obligated because it was something like it was a tapasya or sacrifice by Swamiji for India, and so the Temple of Light, so that was really touching. Um, and then all those people we met at Ananda, that was really, of course, we met all the Nayasamis from all over the world. So there were the USA, Europe, and India. So it was like meeting of all three, people from all the three places. We met Krishna Das, Nirmala, then of course all our Indian Nayasamis, and then from Europe we met, of course we met Shivani, you must have listened to her, Kirtani ji, and of course all the Nayasamis in USA, and then all the people from the movie. Like finding happiness, we like I was like, it was like meeting all these film stars, like Gyanadev who taught yoga to Juliet, and then David who comes to pick up Juliet from the airport. So David and we realized they are like people, normal people, but I was like, sort of like in awe of them. And then Peter, and who was both in finding happiness as well as Nancy. And it was really, and then the choir again. Like, there's so much I want to tell, but I don't think there's enough time. The choir was really, I think, Savishla, Tulsi, Lakshmi, and everybody was there. It was really like Sharmila, me, and Prasanna had a wonderful time. And Bhagwati and Ramesha, I think you have seen him in all those YouTube videos, So Naseem, Vijay, you would have all enjoyed meeting them. Bhagwati they're such, wonderful people. That's the thing about Ananda, that finding happiness is not just a movie. It is real. It is that feeling you get because every person you meet, now even the normal people who built the place, like Nakula's son, we met him. He also helped to build that cottage that we lived in, and of course that schedule that we had, we got to do yoga with Yandev. So that was wonderful, And there used to be sadhana in the morning, like 6:30 to 8 was sadhana, then 10 o'clock the program starts, and then after lunch again, usually from 3 again all the programs, and then everything was so well planned, The concert, yeah, with 130 people, in the concert from all over the world, So that was really wonderful. And then we got to also sing in other small things also, concerts, choirs, like small choirs. The European choir was also beautiful, like we sang in Spanish. That. We also sang in a little bit of Spanish, like the songs, some of them were in both English and Spanish. And the plays were really wonderful. I wish we could, have them here also. It was really wonderful. There were 3 plays that we put up in that amphitheater, which is next to a lotus lake. And there was one about Lisa, a girl who was in this cold world. And it's like very similar to our stories, like we live in this world where we try to earn money, but then we're missing out on all that thing, like when it's about that, working and just working for money as compared to living for God. So it was so beautifully brought out in that play. And then there was another play on an island, and there are all these crystal island. So how they want peace in that island. And the third play was on, these were all excerpts from plays. I think the play itself was bigger, but they had to make short nets. So these were all excerpts from the various plays. The third play was about Yogananda. It's believed that Yogananda will come back in another in 200 years. In 1952, he passed away. So So I think already 70 years or over 73 years. So I think probably in another 130 years, I think Yogananda will be gone. So it was all based on how he's in the Himalayas and how a person who betrayed him then comes to meet him there. So that was one evening, and then another evening we had the life of Swamiji, and there were and then another one was, I think that this was a morning, how Ananda started, the early days. So actually, I realized that we are having it so good here. We already have a ready-made center and we have all our acharyas. But those days, how they started, like how Swamiji, like after he left SRF, like how he got these people. Like, it is really amazing how Swamiji started Ananda, like all the thing and all those people were close to him then, like Jyotishji, Deviji, Jayaji and Sadhna, Dhyana, and all those early people, how they lived in these teepees. And they're able to tell so, like, joyously, but then, like, how much they suffered, like, those teepees, like, they used to leak, it seems, and when it rains, all the water used to come in. They lived in those teepees, and how Sadhna ji used to stitch the cloth for the teepees on the machine, and how the fire was there, and how they had these raccoons there. They used to come into the teepees, I believe. So it was, I don't know, they would have gone through so much, but they took it so joyously. Like, we've often heard about Jyotishji's story about how the fire came and their son was only 11 months, 11 days old, and how everything burned down. But then they took it so joyously, all the hardships, and then in the tour, we went to the school where, Dharmarajan ji used to teach. We met his boss, the principal, the early sweet lady, and how the school is so different. I think something Lakshmi Priya will really appreciate, like, how I think from kindergarten to 12th, they are all together, the children, and how they learn empathy. There was a story how incident where a kid got hit by a ball, and the kid was down. And before even anybody could come, all the children gathered around and told the child to breathe, just breathe, just breathe. So how those children are able to have that empathy, how they're so different. We met Dharmarajan ji's old students who are now all they're like this one boy who is doing his PhD in maths, I think all inspired by Dharmarajan ji, and another boy who got into PhD but then said no, and who is teaching in Ananda now. And so that was really nice, and they really loved Dharmarajan ji's teaching. They said that. And so many other things, and there's so much I can talk about, for pilgrimage. And of course, it was led by Dharmarajan and Dharmini ji, who took so much care, like, our food, right from our food and everything, like whether we were comfortable, and we had a lot of little things that we, so thoughtful, like even we had torches and moisturizer and everything, small things that we would have not thought about, but then we were provided everything. So many goodies and all, like we felt so well cared for, like 14 days, and it was really touching the way both of them led the pilgrimage, and all those long drives, like 9 hours to Los Angeles when we came to LA, and Lake Tahoe again, I think that was nearly 3 hours both ways. So all the driving that they did for us, and Lake Tahoe again was so beautiful. It's a blue lake which is 75 kilometers long. It's a huge lake. So when you're driving, like it just comes with us, that lake, so huge. And another village again is very beautiful. I think we must all go together. Really nice. There's these huge coniferous trees, and the air is so clean. After being in Chennai, The air is so clean and the water is so nice. Here we don't have water, and there's so much of water, and the water is so nice, And here, even after a bath, we feel sticky, right? But it was really wonderful, and a lot of other things that I would like to say, like our walks and Masters Market and all the places we could see. And Masters Market is a place where they sell all the groceries and you can have food also there. And it's a huge place, 800 acres. Crystal Hermitage, of course, is far away. There's a mandir called Hansa Mandir, and then there is Saint Francis Church, the small. And, it's really wonderful. And those 10 days were just went away in that. Yeah, it's magical. And then there was this program where there was I think the one that you saw on all the religions, like where everybody spoke. That was really, it was truly a temple of all religions. You could feel that. That feeling was there, and they spoke so well, the Rabbi, and Rabbi is so funny also. It was fun listening to him. And the Islamic that he also Sufi, he also spoke beautifully, and everyone spoke so beautifully about all the religion, and you realize that all religions are one. It's all one light. You could feel that. And then there was one function where each of us was given a lamp, electric lamp, and we could hold it, and like all the lights coming together. And that was also a very beautiful function. Yes, the temple dedication. I think that was the temple dedication, right?
Yes.
That was temple dedication. Yes, that day. And then we had an Indian day where everybody dressed in Indian saris and Indian salwars and all that. That was also really nice, And so many people we met. I met a lady called Shraddha who took care of the flowers in the temple. And when as soon as I asked her about Swamiji, she had tears in her eyes. And they miss him so much even now. And one thing that all of them said was when Swamiji was talking to a person, even if it was for a second or for a minute, he will be 100% with that person. He'll be fully with that person, And it was like he just took all their burden, took everything from them and filled them with joy. So that was something that every one of them said, and I really wish I could have met him, but then as Dharmarajan ji said, we could feel him, like in Moksha Mandir, where his body is there, you can feel him. Like you can feel your heart rate going up, you can feel his presence even now. So I really feel like I could feel in my heart at that time that he is a saint, because you could feel his presence so strongly, just like you feel Master's presence in LA. So in LA, we went to Mount Washington, Lake Shrine. We went to Forest Lawn where his body is kept, and it was really nice. So beautifully preserved, even the trees that Master planted, they are still there. The mango tree, the camphor tree, and everything they have preserved. The banana tree, and all those trees have been kept just like that, preserved, and they're taking a lot of care to preserve it the way it was. In Lake Shrine, there's a big lake where Master used to swim. I was imagining, closing my eyes and imagining Master swimming in that lake. And I believe he used to float, he floated on that lake, and apparently he went to the Samadhi there on that lake, floating. So we were just thinking, and that water is really holy, because the Master swam there. And I think Sharmila and Nilamu got to go to Encinitas. So there, you saw all the photos, right? So there is a beach there. Every one of Master's spaces are very beautiful and preserved that way. So it was a wonderful experience, and I hope we can do it as a family, like all of us. So there's a lot of more. There's much more that I could keep on saying, but We also have plenty of them. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Asher. Well, very good. Anything else before we conclude?
Yeah, regards to the music.
I will, yeah. I guess she's not going to make it, and she conveys her regards to you all. And, actually, interestingly, tomorrow morning, which is Sunday morning, the same time that it is for you now, Shankari is coming to a village. She's visiting relatives who are just in Sacramento, and so that's only an hour and a half away. So she convinced them to drive her up to Ananda village. So Om, we hope it works out. But she's going to come for Sunday service, so that's nice to squeeze one more Chennaiite in. And then after satsang, I'm hoping to have tea with Prasanna. He's in a training program, but they let him out on Sunday afternoons for a brief, time. So that'll be another nice thing. But we are thinking of you all. I'm so glad we get to see you all, but we're missing you all too. And we had a lot of satisfaction by at least having the 10 of us, the 12 of us all together. 13 because Pushpa joined us in LA. But still, we wished it were not 13, but 30 or 60. And remember that the next 2 Sundays are particularly special because we have Anandiji and Jyotishji and Deviji. So please, if you can, just as you've come today, and thank you, try to make it for that to get to connect directly with them. Anandiji was so keen that she'd know the names of the pilgrims from Chennai. Because she said, I've met some of these people online, but I need a reminder of their names. And so when she met them, and I said, hello, this is Anandiji. Not everyone had met her on the Skype satsang. And she said, Ashwini, Sharmila. Now, of course, she had met them, and then Divakar and Ramesh, and then she said, I'm a mind reader, but then she had proved she had studied. So anyway, it was very sweet. But everybody kept repeating, we're so grateful to you all from India for coming for the 50th anniversary. We were all talking about how much it means to us. They said, it means so much to us that you would make the journey, the cost, the trouble, the everything to be a part of this. So it was very much an exchange that way, and a service. So the Chennai ambassadors, the Pune ambassadors, the Delhi ambassadors, we had some from Mumbai and Bangalore as well. So anyway, it's a time of celebration, but for each one, it's how that person's life has been changed. It's not just a collective thing that we all are doing this. It's how your life was touched by Master, and your life has been changed by Kriya, and so on. Okay? Aprima? Anything?
Hi to Prasanna when you meet.
Yeah, I will tell him. I was glad you got to see him last week, those of you who were here. And we're hoping to squeeze him in again once more before it's all over. We're not sure. But Jyotishji and Deviji also send their love, and they look forward to seeing you. They had a satsang with everybody from India, and I'll share that recording with you soon. I didn't send it already, did I? No, I'll send it soon. Yeah. And be sure to watch the videos when you can of all the things that Ashwini was describing. So far, 2 of the videos are out, the ones I sent you, but the rest will be coming. Okay? Yes, I'm sorry. You'll have to tell me in English because all I heard was Ippo.
Came back to India.
When Yepo, not Ipo, Yepo. Said the well, August 2nd. I was going to say, what Rendavada Nal of August.
August 2nd is auspicious day for Tamil people. Adi Perukku.
Excellent.
It's a local festival, Adi Perukku.
Very good. Well, we'll come just in time for Divine Mother then. Very good. But we'll see you before then. See you in just a short week. Have a wonderful Guru Purnima celebration. And again, thank you all for coming today. It's such a joy to see you all. And we miss you a little less in this moment when we can see you. So thanks again. Okay? Okay. Wait, I heard a voice from the heavens. No, it sounds like Agnel. Yeah. Ah, there he is. Okay. Yeah. So we got Mary's news of her delay. August what?
August
4th, right?
12th, not very sure.
12th? No, 4th. I heard 4th. I don't like 12. Anyway, yeah, I can understand. I can understand why. Well, send prayers for her, everybody, because she needs to bring this to a glorious conclusion and just have it be finished. Yeah. Okay, well, love to you all. So nice to see you, and we'll see you again soon. And we'll be in touch throughout the week. Okay. Bye for now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.